Hey guys, Michael here. I'm going to continue on test 9 reading. One of my friends that read it, Writing Away 6466, asked me to review test 9. That student got a lot wrong on the last passage, which is a comparison passage. It was a fairly difficult passage just because the questions, they did a good job of kind of obscuring them. I did a separate video just on that passage there. It's actually a 30-minute video. It's a long time, but it took a lot of time to explain it. Doing it should be within 15, 30, you have 13 minutes per passage, but get through the easier ones quicker. That way you can build 15, 18 minutes to get through the more difficult ones. But I hope that helps. So please, I'm not going to go over today that last passage on test 9 because I've done that on the others. I might do it a little bit, but I'm going to go through the mistakes the student made on the other 4 passages, and they're about maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 8 or 9 mistakes there. And let's see what we can do to do a better job next time. Okay. The idea here is to see the type of errors you make, see the way the questions operate with the test, see how they try to trick you with the wrong answers, and see why you could have eliminated them. Because remember, we're eliminating for errors and not for correctness. Don't jump on what you think is correct because they do that to trick you. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Onto the tablet. Okay, so we got practice test 9. I'm just going to jump through the questions that the student got wrong here. So this is a fiction. It's Amy Tan, the Bonesetter's daughter. Not a lot of information there. And again, I want to be just kind of previewing for proper names and Big Uncle, Old Widow Lau, and blah, blah, blah. I'm just kind of looking I'm picking up the voice. It's fiction. I'm looking for how the characters operate with each other. At this, Precious Ani came to mind. I remember this, and I'm wondering, I think it's very proud to hear Father speak of our Families Inc. this way. This is the big thing here, the Families Inc. So whatever the Families Inc. is, and then I want to check out the questions. So summary question doesn't tell me a lot. I can always do that one last. The main theme of the passage, blah, blah, blah. All right, but here we got some information. So the narrator is portrayed as someone, so we got to think through when we read who the narrator is. Now this one gives us good information. We need to infer from the passage, it's not explicit, that old Widow Lau has a reluctance to stay for tea for some reason. So we're going to infer why she was reluctant to stay for tea, okay? All right, and then we're going to be given evidence. So I need to think to myself, old Widow Lau, she's reluctant to stay for tea, okay? Then the narrator indicates the contrast between the ink making studio at Immortal, so I got to look for Immortal Heart Village, and her family's ink shop. Is that something about the ink shop, okay? So pay attention to that, the ink making studio. Based upon the artistic philosophy expressed in the 4th paragraph, the reason would refer something about Precious Ani, and then the evidence and so on. So now the student only got number 4 wrong, so I'm going to go over just that one here. But as I read, I just want to make the point. When we read blah, 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 there was a question about Old Widow Lau, right? Oh, she was reluctant to stay for some reason. So while I'm reading, I'm picking that up. And I can now, at this point, now I've got evidence lines, right? So that evidence is going to come in one of these. I know it's going to be from 1 to 21. These are all kind of next to each other, except for a little break there. So, but here's where we can look for the correctness if we see it while we read. And we can only do that if we know what the question is asking us, all right? Otherwise, we're going to eliminate. But let's see if we can see it as we read. So, and I'm going to be looking from 1 to 21. So I'm looking for, again, finger on my head going, Old Widow Lau was reluctant to stay for tea for some reason. So here we go. At last, Old Widow Lau was done haggling with the driver. We stepped inside Father's shop, so we know where we are. It was north-facing, quite dim. Perhaps the why Father did not see us at first. He was busy, so Father didn't see us. I number 1 to 4. That doesn't say anything about her being reluctant, so I can immediately get rid of this evidence here, because that doesn't tell me anything about that. Let's go back up here. And notice also I've not looked at the possible answers yet. I don't want to be fooled by them. He was busy with a customer, a man who was distinguished looking, blah, blah, blah. 2 men were bent over a glass case, discovering different qualities of ink sticks. But Big Uncle welcomed us and invited us to be seated. His formal tone, I knew he did not recognize who we were. Okay, so he just thinks we're just some regular clients coming in. So I called his name in a shy voice, and he squinted at me and then laughed and announced our arrival to Little Uncle, who apologized. So we got Big Uncle, Little Uncle, comes over and apologizes many times for not rushing sooner to greet us. Okay, so the narrator, and Old Widow Lau came in. They didn't see her, blah, blah, blah. They rushed to be seated at one of the 2 tables for customer. Old Widow Lau refused their invitation 3 times, exclaiming that my father and uncles must be too busy for visitors. Okay, I think they're inviting her to do what? To sit down, and she refuses. And she says, oh, they must be too busy for visitors. She made weak efforts to leave. All right, this tells me that she's putting up a fight. Let's see if we got anything. And then let's see, first of all, are these sections 15 to something in the evidence? It sure is. It's right there. Let's see if that answers this. At this point, I'm going to forget about 19 to 21. I'm going to see if 15 answers these questions. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to take C. I'm going to take answer C from 5, and I'm going to see if that answers any of these things. Now, notice I have feign, inconsiderate, appropriate, ill-advised. I can ignore those for now. And let's see. We can go back to them. We may or may not know those words because she's not genuinely firm in her resolve. It did say she made weak efforts to leave. That means that she's probably not fully genuinely firm in her resolve to her reluctance to stay. So I can't eliminate that because the family's been planning her. No, she wasn't planned because they showed up and they didn't know they were there because the shop is unusually busy. So it'd be appropriate. Here's the thing. None of this that we read, and maybe 19 to 21, let's go ahead and read that. On the fourth insistence, we finally sat. So they sat down. Then uncle brought us hot tea and sweet oranges as well as bamboo lattice. All right, so she actually didn't not leave. Nowhere does it tell me it was unusually busy. It says he was busy, but it doesn't say it was unusually busy. I don't recall seeing that anywhere in here. So I'm going to just go bam and eliminate unusually there because she's exhausted from the journey. It says nothing about her being tired. She haggled with the driver. Doesn't say anything about her being tired at all. Oh, come on. She haggled with the driver, but I don't see anywhere where she's tired. Okay, so I without even thinking any further, I got rid of that. I got rid of that. And that leaves me that, and C gives evidence to that. So I'm done with these. 4 and 5 are C, excuse me, D. This doesn't do it. That doesn't do it. So there we have it. So the student selected the correct evidence, C, but went after the wrong answer, C here. Remember, it says nothing about it being unusually busy. Now let's see if we can use this feigned, inconsiderate, appropriate, and ill-advised. She refused their offer 3 times to leave. That's probably not very appropriate if you're being polite, right? So I can also eliminate that. Maybe you don't know what the word feign means, which is what she did. She faked it. That's what this means. But if you didn't know what feign means, we can still eliminate down to C. Okay, let's move on to the next passage, and I'll go through this a little bit more quickly now, so you see my approach here. This is how the web affects memory. So this could be social science, or it could be, I'm not sure it's academic. It's Harvard Magazine, so it's probably peer-reviewed, I assume. It certainly has an editor. The student got one wrong here, number 14. So let's skip the text itself. Number 14 is based on the information in the passage, which would be considered a transactive memory source. So we have to remember, this is in the passage. They must talk about transactive memory sources. So let's go see in the text. And this is something that I hope that before you read the text, you're seeing that, oh, they're going to ask me about something that would be considered a transactive memory source. All right. So I go back up here and I look for the transactive memory source, and let's blah, blah, blah. Search engines, remember fewer facts. And okay, so Google effect on memory. When people have access to search engines, they remember fewer facts and less information because they can go back to the search. He believes new findings show the internet has become transactive memory source. So the internet is one of them. So that might be an evidence. So we're looking for something that might be considered transactive memory. I don't know what those possible things are, but let's just see what they say about transactive memory source. A method by which our brains compartmentalize information. In other words, each memory is a transaction. So Wegner came up with 85. A memory exists in many forms, as when a husband relies on his wife to remember. Okay, so yeah, honey, you remember the birthday for me. It's a whole network of memory where you don't have to remember everything yourself. So a transactive memory source is something that triggers a memory. That's what I'm reading here. You just have to remember who knows it. Okay, cool. Now the computers are doing that for us. So let's go in through here and let's eliminate these. I'm on 14 it was. Okay, so we're going down to 23. Let's see what's going on here. This is an evidence question, but it's not for the prior question. It's unto itself. Which choice provides the best evidence for the conclusion that streams used by Resnick's team in their real-world study were not entirely free of predators? Okay, so what's it telling us? This dude used a stream, and it had some predators in it, in other words, okay, and there's evidence for it, okay? So we're going from, this is a pretty big spot, but as we read, we're going to say to ourselves, what am I looking for? Evidence that the streams were not entirely free of predators. Let's see what we can find, and we'll stick to these evidence lines. So I'm going to go to 14 to 20, see if it's in there. And so we're looking for evidence that there are predators, it's not entirely free of them. So 14 to 24. A lucky guppy's born, blah, blah, blah. Bushkeep predator fish Keep out called pike found in calmer waters downstream, as you might expect. The guppy mortality rate is a proportion of individuals that die is much higher on those sites with rapidity. Okay, so this predator fish is not in there. Okay, I don't know that that's saying that it's so I gotta go back and say to myself, what am I looking for again? Because I started reading it and I forgot what I was looking for. Okay, we're looking for evidence that the real world streams that they studied were not entirely free of predators. Here, I'm thinking that just told me there was one predator that wasn't there, so I'm going to eliminate that. That's what the student went with, by the way, and I don't see it there either. So let's look at 46 to 59. So again, I hope you see my logic there. This tells us that there was one fish that wasn't there, but that doesn't tell me that there were other predators that were there. Let's go to, again, I got to go back and forth. I want you to be flipping the page back and forth with your thumb. 46 to 59. Let's see what we find here. We're looking for 46 to 59, so it's over here. This kind of real-world manipulation of nature is called experimental evolution. It's growing blah, 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 working the organisms to blah, 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 come down. I don't see anything in there. Then down to 59. Along with the students' college resident, remove groups of puppies. Now, by the way, at this point, I can eliminate here. It's got to be D. All right, so I just eliminated down, so I can move on if I wanted to. Let's just see where the evidence that there was not entirely free of predators. Along with the students, the groups of puppies in the predator riven lies below the waterfield had predator released them into the blah 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 above the falls. Okay, although small predatory killfish occurred these fish do not pose any close to the danger of the cichlids. Okay, so there are predators above there. Okay, I hope you can see how that happened here. Again, this evidence, I don't even need to read it because I've already eliminated for sure A, B, and C. Now, why the student chose A, I'm not sure, but you weren't eliminating carefully. Okay, student also got number 25, the word popular. Okay, for vocab, the way we want to look at vocab is to figure out, well, what part of speech is popular, okay? Is it a noun, verb, adjective, adverb? And then let's see, if it is any one of those things, how does it relate to the other words around it? And not just the context of the sentence, but to the words around it. I want to look for word types that would fit. So this is line 49, popular. So we're looking here, I got this word is popular is right here. So what's popular? It is popular. What is the it? Experimental evolution is popular, and it's growing increasingly popular. So popular is defining something about experimental evolution. It's not directly modifying, it's just giving a characteristic of it as being people like it. Among whom? Among scientists, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we're looking for a word to replace popular that defines or modifies or qualifies some aspect of experimental evolution among scientists working with it. So did the science, I guess they like it, right? It's popular. So among these, is it accessible? Well, accessible has nothing to do with its popularity, so get rid of that. Okay, what else we got here? Is it suitable? Again, suitable is a characteristic. These two are just, they're not saying that they have access to it. They're not saying that it's appropriate for them to use. They're just saying that it's popular. So it'd be widespread or likable. Now, can a thing be likable? Probably not. People are. Remember, likable defines a characteristic of people. Whereas, so I'm just done with D right there. All right. So this one I go with C simply because of my elimination. Widespread, you may not like that, but I know it can't be likable because a thing can't be likable. People and animals are likable. All right. Next one is number 31. I hope this is not a chart one because I hate the chart. Oh God. Okay. Charts drive me nuts, but listen, we got the data presented in figures 1 and 2 best support the conclusion that compared with guppies from the high predation environments, guppies from low predation environments are more likely to do something. Okay, so there's a conclusion that compared with guppies from high predation, guppies from low predation were more likely to do something. So I can kind of, what I like to do on these things, I'll let you go back and just kind of think through what do they say in the end here, other studies have shown, blah, 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 require for gender sensibility formula. Nah, that really doesn't help me there, okay? So I got to go to the chart and see what it says. So I'm looking for, again, I go back and forth. What does the chart tell me? Guppies from high predation are more likely to do something than guppies from low predation. So I'm looking for the comparison between high predation environments and low predation. So I've got high predation environment, low predation, high predation environment, low predation environment. So among these, I notice that these two are kind of the same. So the north and the south slope are both high predation, and these two, so these two are both high predation and these two are both low predation, right? So there's something more different about these two. But let's see what they're after. What are the mean embryo mass of guppy offspring in high and low predation? So this is how much the guppies weigh. So with high predation, they weigh less. with low predation, they weigh more, but the south slope low predation, they weigh more than the north slope predation, whatever that means. We had to do the reading here. So let's go see what we can do to eliminate down on this one. So that the guppies from low predation environments, which means that they're low predation means they weigh more, have fewer offspring and reach full maturity. So, no, if they weigh more, they're reaching maturity longer, so it can't be A. Be part of a small litter and have greater, the low predation, smaller litter. Oh, it could be, okay, because they certainly have greater mean embryo mass. I'm not sure if it talked about having a smaller or larger litter there, but let's not eliminate. Have higher rate of survival and have less mean. No, the low predation ones are bigger. So remember, low predation, produce a greater number of offspring and have a greater mean mass. Okay, so the difference between these two is one of them has a greater number of offspring. This one is smaller. So small litter, more mass. Larger litter, more mass. Let's see what they say in the chart. Does it actually show us that? Mean embryo mass. We're measuring the mass here. Does it say anything about the size of the litter? It doesn't, which means I got to go get that information somewhere else. So mean embryo mass, this doesn't tell me a thing about how many offspring there are, but so how do we know how many offspring there are? Well, we can go back to, oh, wait a minute. Wasn't this thing saying from figure 1 and 2? Okay, so I figured out figure 2. Now I'm going to go to figure 1 and let's see which one. So all I want to know from figure 1 is if from figure 2 is, it's not, I don't care about the high predation, the low predation environments, which ones have more or less, and what is the mean number of offspring? Oh, they have more offspring in the high predation, less offspring. So it's less offspring in the low predation, which is smaller litter, so B. So it's got to be B there. All right. So I eliminated A and C. Then I had to go back and literally I made the mistake of forgetting that I was supposed to look at both figures. I jumped on figure 2 since they both have to correlate with each other. I could have done it either way. All right, let's move on to the next passage, which is a speech by Sarah T. Smith, Second Slavery Convention of American Women, 1838. Kids sometimes struggle with the language of these historical ones, but you can break it down, okay? So your job is to read through and get a sense for what's going on and pull information from the questions to guide us, all right? So as the main passage, whatever. But there's a technique she uses, so we got to pay attention to that. She develops an argument about slavery as a political question over the course. So that's good information. She's going to be developing an argument about the political question over the course of the passage. So I really want to pay attention to that while I'm reading here. All right. And then we got, what else we have here? There's a summary, something about the first paragraph. Student got that one wrong, so we have to read the first paragraph. She argues it's possible for women to engage in a certain activity. So that's what I think they're telling us a main point here, probably. And there's evidence for that. And then student got number 42 wrong, so that's evidence for this one here, 41. She strongly suggests that slavery affects the United States in a certain way. So the student got this one right, but the evidence wrong. We'll go for it. Let's work on the first paragraph. Okay, so we got to work on number 33. There's a technique. She uses it throughout the passage. Let's answer that after. That's kind of a main point type question. So let's see if we can pick that up when we look at number 35, because student got 35 wrong, which is to summarize the first passage. Let's go back and read the first passage. And remember, I'm looking for her main purpose, the technique she uses. She develops an argument about political question, women being involved in something. So let's read this down here and see what we're looking for. We are told, who's the we? It's a Convention of American Women, so it's women. We're told that it's not within the province of women to discuss the subject, so women shouldn't talk about slavery. That is a political question. So we're stepping out of our sphere. So women shouldn't be involved in politics, right? Okay, and if we talk about slavery, we're getting involved in politics, therefore we shouldn't be talking about slavery. It is not true that it is merely a political question. Oh, I see what she's doing. She's going, okay, women are told not to talk about slavery because it's political. But she says we can talk about it because it's not just a political question, merely. It is likewise a question of justice, humanity, morality, religion, blah, 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 whether labor shall free the labor be driven to the unrequited. I think I get the main point here. So whether there's bones, okay, so we're talking about slavery, blah, blah, blah. Let's see if we can eliminate just on that first part. So we're looking at number 35. Smith explains the conventional viewpoint and presents evidence supporting it. No, she doesn't support the conventional viewpoint as women shouldn't be involved in politics, right? Smith rejects the claim and elaborates on her reasons for doing so. Yeah, she does that. She says that a woman shouldn't be involved in politics. Smith introduced her subject and provides system. No, she does not. Smith identifies a problem and proposes 2 steps. No, she's not going to do that in the first paragraph. So I go with B by my elimination because she's not going to propose steps as remedy. That's the point of the rest of the paragraph. She introduces her subject, provides, she talks, blah, blah, blah. But really, this is what she's doing here. And notice I picked that up just from those very first lines right there. Okay, we got one more problem here. We actually have 2 because I skipped 33 because I always want to be working on 33 at the end. Because it's a best description of you throughout the passage. We will have read the entire passage. We'll know a little bit better here. So we're going down to the last one student got wrong here was question number 42. Now this is evidence, so we need to, student correctly got answer number A here. Smith most strongly suggests that slavery affects the U.S. by lowering the country's reputation in the international community. And the evidence the student went for on this was D, 73 to 77. Notice again, the evidence is all coming from 48 through 77. So if we're reading with the question in mind, we're going to find the evidence as we read. So Smith most strongly suggests that slavery affects the United States by. Let's keep that finger on my head. What am I looking for? Something about she suggests it affects the United States in some way. That's starting 48 to 77. Let's just kind of see where we find that. 48 here. Will it be easy to convince them, who's them, I guess the wife and daughter, right, that it's no concern of theirs, and their habitation is corroded, blah, blah. Sure, this consideration is self-sufficient, arouses some energy of the women, blah, blah, blah. Ruins the fabric of domestic happiness. I don't see anything about it impacting the United States here. But admitting it to be a political question, we have no interest in the welfare of our country. Okay, now we're getting into the country. May we not permit a thought to stray beyond the narrow limits of our own family circle in the present hour. May we not breathe a sigh over the miseries of our countrymen, nor utter a word of remonstrance, whatever that means, against the unjust laws that are crushing them to the earth. Must we witness the headlong rage or heedless folly which makes our nation, with which our nation is rushing onward toward destruction, and not seek to arrest its downward course? Shall we silently behold the land which we love and all blah blah, ready increasing throughout the world? Silently behold the land we love by the system which is already tolling the death bill of her disease among nations. No, the events of the last 2 years have cast their dark shadows before, overclouding the bright prospects of the future, shrouding the destinies of our country in. So it's something about impacting the country here. In more than midnight gloom, we cannot remain inactive. Our country is dear to us as the proudest statesmen. Okay, I think we hit all the evidence things there, and I definitely didn't see anything in A or B to support that. So let's test out 68 to 73 and 77 to 73 to 77. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take C here and D here. These are from 42, so 42C, 42D. Okay, and I'm going to see if that evidence answers any of these questions. So let's see what we got. 68 to 73, shall to nations. Now, what am I looking for? I'm looking for that she strongly suggests that slavery affects the United States in some way. And again, I have to remind myself, remember you're flipping between the pages, 68 to 73, shall to nations. 68 to 73, 68 to 73, shall to nations. Shall we silently behold the land in which we love, blah, 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 rendered a hissing and a reproach throughout the world by this system, which is already, okay, so it seems like there's going to be a hissing and a reproach throughout the world at this land which we love because of the system which is already tolling the death bell, her decease among nations. So it looks like other nations are going to be making fun of us. Let's see about that. Lowering the country's reputation. It certainly does that. Leading many women to disavow their allegiance. No, it doesn't say anything about their allegiance to the country. She's sad that they might. So I get rid of that. Causing violent conflicts. And no, it's not. She's not talking about that. She might somewhere else, but not there from C. Weakening the authority of the country's government. She does not talk about that in 68 to 73. Just to remind herself, what does 68 to 73 say? 68 to 73 says, shall we silently behold the land which we love with all heart warm affection of children, rendered as hissing and reproach throughout the world. So they're going to reproach us and hiss at us around the world because of something about the death bell of her decease among the nations. If you don't understand what that means, I could explain it to you, but you don't need to understand that to get this right, okay? So C certainly seems to answer A. Let's check out D, 73 to 77, no to the inactive. 73, no to inactive. Okay, no, the events of the last 2 years have cast their dark shadows before, overclouding the bright prospects of the future, shrouding the destinies of our country in more than midnight gloom, and we cannot remain active. In other words, Things that happened in the past years are a shadow on us, and it's shrouding our destinies in a midnight gloom. Okay, let's see if that says anything about these. So does that say, go back here, D, does that say lowering the country's reputation? Does not. Lead women to disavow allegiance? No, it does not. Cause violent conflicts? No, it does not. Weaken the authority of the country's government? No, it does not. It's just casting a gloom. So here we have to go with C and A. All right. So now we have to go back to number 33, which is kind of a main point question here. I'm not going to go through the whole passage. I just want to show the elimination here for you on this. So which statement best provides the best description of a technique that Smith uses throughout the passage to advance her main point? We can just look at, she sort of sets up like in the beginning here. She does talk about, setting up a typical persuasion. You you state the argument of the other person and then you reject it. That might be one thing she's doing. And she asks a series of questions. Must we witness? So she's making her appeal to, remember, her audience are women like her, and she's addressing them to get them involved when these rhetorical questions. Are we just going to sit by and let all this bad stuff happen? So there's a technique here she uses, and so let's go through the elimination here on number 33. She presents claims in the form of rhetorical questions that mostly have implicit negative answers. That would be kind of what I just described without even, honest to God, I didn't even know that question was going to say that possible answer. She criticizes opponents by quoting she doesn't go after them. No self-contradictory remarks they made. She illustrates each of her central ideas with an emotionally powerful anecdote. No, get rid of that word anecdote. She might be emotionally powerful, but it's not stories. She emphasizes the reasonableness of her views by presenting them as though they are universally held. No, because she's arguing against people. A, we eliminate down to it, whether we like it or not. I went over the last passage in a different video, so I'm going to let you go to that one here. This is some tricky questions in here, but I modeled the entire thing and explained it away. So let me know any questions on that. So I hope that helps. This is test 9, and for the students over there, I hope you make good use of this. Let me know any questions, anything that wasn't clear, and I hope you get the elimination strategy here. Get those questions and see them in the text. All right, good luck, guys.